Hey everyone, welcome back to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets and how to increase your market business success. Whether you're a farmers market manager, a farmer, or a food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's short episode of Tent Talk, we're talking about the 4 A's that will help you manage your time and avoid burnout. Avoid. There's another A. Hey everyone, I'm Brijet Myers. I'm one of your Tent Talk podcast co-hosts, and I've spent years and years as an on-site farmers market manager and just basically do it all from pulling permits to social media marketing to kicking pirate vendors off the corner every Saturday. And I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm your other host, Catt White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and also host of the Farmers Market Pros community, our private group on Facebook.
So fun.
So much happening there.
So much happening. Welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. So Catt's been on the road this last month, speaking at state farmers market conferences and doing some online talks at those conferences too. I've been so excited.
It has. It's been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to find out that people picture me as someone with short, dark hair.
I hope that woman is listening right now. Now she knows what you look like.
That's right.
Yeah.
Deciding I offered to go back and cut it and dye it, but she didn't think it was that important. It's just that's the way she'd pictured me.
Someone heard Catt speaking. Yeah.
It's funny to get out there and mingle it up with farmers market managers and farmers and makers and find out how many of them listen to Tent Talk. So thank you for being out there.
Yes. We're always so excited when people say that they listen. People come up, find me at the market on Saturdays and say, oh, hey, I listen to Tent Talk. Or our very own vendors listen, and that just warms my heart.
Mine too.
Shout out to Maya. I know you're listening.
Yeah.
Every week.
Gary.
So, yeah.
Gary at Golden Coast Mead.
I love it.
Yeah, so actually I just got back from the California Small Farm Conference in San Luis Obispo. Mm-hmm. That had multiple track for farmers. That conference is really more aimed at farmers than anyone else, and there's a lot of actual farm information. So all the big seed companies are there, and a lot of talk about how to manage your farm so that it's either to certify organic or to do other kinds of certification and checking to make sure that your practices are good. So a lot of that kind of thing, some economics for farmers, how to hold on to land, financing loans, that kind of thing. So a lot of farm topics. And then there's one track there for market managers. So I was really surprised by how many brand new managers were at that one.
Oh, that's nice.
It's good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's encouraging to see new people that are really excited, also kind of baffled, but really excited. Yeah.
It's an interesting industry to try to understand.
It is.
And I think sometimes, like one of our speakers was saying, Pascal at the conference, like people just think those tents rain down from the sky and just land on the street. So I think sometimes it doesn't occur to people that it is a job.
Oh, it for sure doesn't.
They can go out and seek this kind of employment.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It makes the kind of employment, the hiring pool a little low because people don't know it's a job you can have.
I mean, how many people have you encountered that went, wait, so what does a farmer's market manager do?
Yeah, they go, what do you mean? What do you do? And then they go, well, what do you do the other 6 days of the week? I'm like, there's a lot of other stuff we have to do behind the scenes. Anyways.
Oh, my goodness.
It's okay.
Didn't you just talk to somebody on Saturday who said, but what happens? They all just come out and pick a space, right?
Oh my gosh. So funny. He was a restaurant owner that's in the neighborhood. So friendly. And he's just asking, he was just curious. He's a curious guy. And he was like, oh, so what happens? Do these guys just come out and like pick a spot like when they get here? I'm like, are you kidding me? There's 200 tents on this street. But he was just really didn't know. And it doesn't,
people don't know.
It's easy to forget that people just don't understand. They come out and see a cool event and it's like, oh, great. I'm sure I go to plenty of places and I'm like, oh, cool. This all just came together. And there's really like 100 people behind the scenes.
Right.
So,
yeah, you have no idea. And now we know that about conferences.
Now we know that about a conference.
Right. So the Washington State Farmers Conference that I was at right before this one in Tacoma, which, by the way, is very cool. Love Tacoma.
Oh, yeah. You loved it there.
Oh, I did. That was nice.
Yeah. Made me want to visit.
That was all farmers market managers at various levels, some newbies, but then a lot of experienced managers as well. And they had 3 really full tracks with a lot of topics, which of course frustrated me to no end because I wanted to be in all of them.
All at the same time.
Yeah, all at the same time. It's so frustrating. And people that I saw in California, a couple of them had been in Washington and they were saying the same thing, that I wanted to be in that one and that one. Yeah, so that's funny. So that's an ongoing conversation we have about Intense, the farmers market conference, we've kind of gone back and forth. We kept everybody together for a long time because I hate missing something.
Yeah.
I have such bad FOMO at conferences. And then we broke out a little bit more. And then because people said, I wish we could break out and do specialized sessions. And then people said, oh, no, I kind of missed us all being together. And so we're baffled.
I know. It's hard to please everyone, I think.
I mean, we had a good chat about that, though, at our last planning meeting, me and you and Justine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, talking about, we kept a lot of people together this time, but then some of the feedback we got was, I wish I could get more with like my people, like my food vendors could meet all together and talk about things that are specific to us, and market managers could speak about things that are specific to them. But we did that one year and people were like, I want to go to the other person's group. So,
there's advantages both ways.
Yeah.
And it's cool for us because I think we're the only conference I know of that actually has a nice track for makers, for food makers. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people teach a lot to farmers. Most of the farm conferences have something for market managers. And then there's conferences like the Washington State one where that association has been around for, I want to say, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's specifically for farmers market managers.
Yeah.
So you get a few farmers in there on panels and things, but that's not really who's there. It's all managers. So I think we're one of the few conferences that has all three groups. We also have the food makers.
Yeah.
I guess we could add a crafter section and really have all the groups that are at markets, but we have most of the groups. So what was our last conclusion? We were going to do some really good off-site stuff on Saturday before the conference.
Yep.
Right? So we'll put some people on tours in kitchens and then also at farms and also at markets for different people and what they might want to take a look at. And then Sunday, have some real good, robust content, but a lot of networking time first thing in the morning. So you can find your tribe.
Yeah.
Then Monday, we're going to do some together in the morning, some at the end of the day, but in the middle, do a lot of different rooms where you can kind of go with a concentration of skills in your area. Specific. And then Tuesday all back together, right?
Yeah. I think it'd be nice. People wanted to be together really to network with each other. So having more networking opportunities. But then when it comes to like really workshop-y things, break them out into smaller groups. So that seems to be if anyone listening has an opinion about that, send it on over.
By all means, send us an email. We love that. In fact, we'll probably send out another survey.
Yeah.
Not just to the people who've attended, but to our whole email group. I think there's about 10,000 of you right now. Mm-hmm. And if you all answer, we're going to be very busy.
And if half of you say one thing and half of you say the other, we're just going to have to
happens.
pull an idea out of a hat, I think.
That's right. But yes, we'd love to hear from you. So connect at farmersmarketpros.com.
Yes. And Catt and I love going to conferences, so we're always getting new ideas. And our conference is ever changing and evolving, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I love going around and just kind of picking out the best piece of each other conference.
Yeah.
Got some good program ideas.
And we're going to announce the dates for the next conference coming up. So stay tuned.
Pretty soon. Not today.
Not today. But pretty soon. But you got to stay tuned for that because we did select dates. So we'll get that to you guys soon so we can get booked out. And you also spoke as part of the Ohio Farmers Market Manager Certification program recently, right?
Yeah, I did. Actually, now that's exciting. I love that they're certifying managers. It's the Ohio Farmers Market Managers Network.
Love that.
Or maybe it's the Farmers Market Network. I'll have to look it up. It's one of those. Yeah. But I thought it's brilliant that they're doing this certification thing. There's something like 14 segments of it that you have to take. And you have to take the whole thing, and then you get a certification that you've been through all this education, which I think is brilliant. You know, we've talked about creating a national certification program for farmers market managers.
I think that's a great idea just because it's, like we were just saying, it's a very like niche thing and people don't quite understand it. So it's nice to kind of give them the full gamut of that education and then at the end say, oh, you are a pretty qualified person. Here's your certification. And you know what to do in a lot of different circumstances and have received all this education in that specific kind of field.
Yeah. I mean, it would be smart. So many of the people I talk to at conferences and things, especially people that work for cities, where they've been in Parks and Rec or somewhere and they say, oh, look, now we're going to do a farmer's market and now that's your job, but they don't give them any kind of background or training. And then they wonder why they're not all that excited about that new job description or chunk of their job description. And they're not successful because they just haven't had any prep or any training.
Yeah. And really as farmers market managers, as fellow market managers and anyone who's involved in the farmers market business, we should be in favor of this because nothing annoys me more than going to a market that is clearly run by people that don't understand farmers markets.
Right.
And they have, knickknacks and like to farmers, and they just don't understand like what a farmer's market is supposed to be or what it's supposed to provide to your community. Yes, farmers markets all vary and they're different based on who's there and who's shopping, what's available, but really we should all be kind of somewhat following the same kind of flow.
We should be promoting farmers.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's called, I actually said that in my talk at the California Small Farm Conference. It's called a farmer's market.
Operative word being farmer.
Farmers. It's not called a hummus maker's market.
Yeah.
It's not called a kettle corn popper's market.
It's not called a food. There are things called food truck markets or whatever.
Okay.
Call it that. Please.
That's good.
Change the name.
Yep.
All right. That's a
But as long as we're doing
different...
ones that are called farmers markets, we should have some emphasis on farmers. Actually, what's great, somebody said this to me the other day. Isn't it kind of crazy that you can manage a farmer's market and not even have a food handler's card?
That is very interesting.
It is.
Which is why I always like to hire people who have worked in restaurants before.
Me too.
And sometimes it doesn't seem related, but I feel like the staff that we've had that have worked in the food service industry understand farmers market, obviously because there's food there, but they just understand like food safety. Like you need to have someone who kind of understands food safety, because even though you're not dealing with the food directly, you need to be able to look at a booth and be like, hey, that's not safe. Let's fix that. Because that's your responsibility too.
Exactly.
You're responsible for the market and the shoppers. So
yeah, I think there are a lot of us. A lot of good managers do have some food service background and knowledge and training, but you don't have to. And so there's a bunch of people out there managing markets that don't.
Yeah, it's not a requirement, which is bananas.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then you also talked to the Ohio group about time management, right?
That was actually my niche out of the 14 sessions that they had. I ended up, I don't know why exactly, but because I'm multivaried in my knowledge and background, and I can talk about whatever they're missing, and they were missing somebody to talk about. It really was about avoiding burnout. Mm-hmm. And I think the best way to avoid burnout is to manage your time and resources and energy so that you don't just flame.
Yep.
Right? So that is what I talked about, because aside from our job being weird, there's just a lot to our job, and it can eat you up if you're not careful.
Oh yeah, we could do this job. I could have a staff of 10 people and we could all work 60 hours a week. That's how many things are available to work on a farmer's market. So you really have to narrow that down and make sure that you're working on the right things at the right time.
Right. And that's part of what I talked about, was determining how many people you've got and what's on your team and how much time you have, and then narrowing down and prioritizing so that you work on the most important things and how to spread that out a little bit. Yep. So we talked about using the 4 A's.
The 4 A's. And now I want us to do a podcast episode for each letter of the alphabet. Could be like Sesame Street podcast.
It could.
Today's episode is brought to you by the letter
We talk about the 4 P's.
We use the 4 P's all the time, and we have for years and years in our Vendor 101 training course that we teach here in person.
Right.
And we talk about the 4 P's, and we've done a podcast episode about that. But you came up with the 4 A's for a talk you were doing. Yeah. So I feel like now we can just go on. And they were all so good. You did the 4 A's, and I was like, well, what are you going to do about the A's? And all of these are really helpful. It's helpful for me to learn. So
good.
Take it away.
And then we'll think about B's and C's and what have you.
When we get to X's, might be hard, but we'll get there.
True.
When we get to that, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, the 4 A's that we talked about was analyze, automate, ask, and accomplish. And you have to do it in those order, in that order, or it won't work. Okay. So it does seem like our jobs are endless, and especially if you have a small market, the whole world is on your shoulder. So the first thing that you have to do to figure out how to get past that is the job that nobody wants to do, no matter how many of my staff members I've asked to do it. They all hate it. I understand that because I hate it, because I need to do it for myself from time to time, and I hate it too. But what you have to do is log your day. So whether you use a spreadsheet or a clever app or whatever, you need to make a note every 15 minutes at least. You can tighten it up even tighter than that, but I think every 15 minutes will get you there. You make a note of what you've been working on. So were you reading applicant emails? Were you working on a permit? Were you updating your Instagram? Also part of our job description, so you don't have to be embarrassed to log your 15 minutes that you were on social media. That's part of the job. And you just have to keep doing it. And to be effective at it, you have to do it for at least a solid week. Or at least, if you don't have time to do it for a whole week, do it on Monday and Tuesday this week, and the next week do it on Wednesday and Thursday, and the week after that do it on Friday and Saturday. Let's none of us pretend that this is a 5-day-a-week job. We know it's 7. So you have to log every day so that you work out a pattern of what you're spending your time on. You've done that, right?
I have done that, and I did that for the purpose of creating a sheet that would tell me what things have to get done
Right.
Every day of the week, because there's certain things like setting the map, setting the roster, getting the bag ready for the staff, doing, checking the email to make sure no one called out absent, those kind of things. I was like forgetting like one or two of those things,
Right.
and it was just throwing everything off. So I was like, look, I need to make a list. So I did keep track of my time.
You tracked it first, right?
Yep, I tracked it first.
And you've got to, when you're tracking, you want to record your tasks in small line items. So you wouldn't track and say made market map because that's not specific enough.
Yeah.
So you would say checked for vendor call outs, scheduled substitute vendors, updated the map document, made copies if you're using a paper map. So it's not just make map. You got to break it down to what are all those pieces that come together to make the map.
Yeah. My big thing was making the map and making sure that information got translated to our roster where we keep
Right.
our receipts, where we collect our booth rent. Those things have to match.
Exactly.
So that was a very specific thing that sometimes the dots wouldn't connect.
There you go. So that's another one of your line items. Add to roster, adjust roster, balance to make sure everything's matching up.
Yep.
So same thing. When you don't just say, for the last hour, I've been posting to Instagram. No, for 15 minutes, you scheduled topics for the week. And then you spent how much time finding great photos, and then how much time writing captions, and then how much time to assemble hashtags, how much time to verify your hashtags, because you do verify your hashtags, right?
Of course.
Because you do not want to pull up Farmer's Daughter. I mean,
Nope.
that's not...
Don't do it.
Don't go there. For God's sake, don't Google it. And then post at 6:45 a.m. or, whenever you've determined that your best posting time is. So again, you want to break it down in really, really small chunks. And we're going to tell you why. And we're at another A soon.
Okay.
But once your list is done, then you can go back and you can, if you're doing it on an Excel sheet, you can add a column that maybe something says marketing and something says vendor management and something says financial and something says permits. Or you can shade it with a color, however your mind works. But the idea is to batch those tasks into another Sesame Street favorite. Some of these things are like the other and some aren't.
Group them together.
Because mega batching is so much more efficient than switching back and forth between tasks all day.
Yes.
You came up with that. You discovered the mega batch.
The mega batching. Well, I listen to Amy Porterfield's podcast, which I find very informational. She does a lot of like helping people make digital courses, but she has a lot of good information about how to streamline your business, whatever it may be. And she talked about mega batching for podcasts, which was recording a bunch of episodes at once.
And now we do that sometimes.
Now we try to do that. We are going to do that more. That's our 2020 vision goal. And you can do that with all sorts of things. So now I mega batch like maps, because we do 3. Putting all the email tasks together, put all the phone calls, put all accounting tasks. And so when I'm on a roll with a type of task, it's easy for me to keep going with that and get a bunch accomplished, as opposed
that
to
flow, that mindset.
Popping, because I have certain tabs open on my computer, or I
Right.
have an app open, or I have a photo album open, or something like that that I'm using, like a tool I'm using for that task.
Right.
So it's nice to get a bunch done of one type of task.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So that's how you're analyzing. You're
Yep.
breaking it down, you're color coding it, you're doing whatever you need to do to lump those tasks together that are like one another and that use the same kind of flow and the same kind of energy.
Yep.
So that's your analyze.
Got it.
1A down.
1A down.
Okay.
Okay.
So once you've analyzed your list, you can start to automate it. Because the whole idea, there's a big time management theory that says that you should be able to automate 80% of what you do.
Yes.
And then the other 20%, you're actually going to have to be creative about thinking about what you have to do and creating new things and using new thought patterns. But most of the stuff that most of us do all day, roughly 80%, should be able to be automated. You're doing exactly the same thing over and over.
Yep.
So that's how your laminated list works.
Yeah. Oh, I jumped the gun on that. But yes.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, you were talking that during analyzing. We want to talk about it during automate, so go ahead.
Talked to it during the wrong A. Yeah, then I automated and put a list together where it has my daily must do. Like Tuesday I have a market, Wednesday I have a market, Saturday I have a market. So there's things that have to be done either the day prior or the morning of or after the market that just have to be done. So that's when I'm automating, doing those same things every week. And so I can just keep doing the same things. And I have a little like checklist. At this point, I don't like check them off that much anymore because it's just become such a good habit, but I use it as a reference point and it really helped to me. And I could. And when I go out of town, I can hand it to you.
Exactly.
And then you can do it.
As you've done lately. Yes. And that's very helpful, having your little animated list. I didn't know it by heart, so I did cross them off.
Yeah.
And I actually loved that it was laminated.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to, because part of what you're automating there is making your to-do list.
Yep.
Everybody talks about, last thing you do during the day is make your to-do list. Well, you know what? Most of your to-do list is going to be the same next Wednesday as it is this Wednesday.
Yeah.
So why not already have a to-do list that's laminated like that? Use the dry erase marker. You don't have to keep making it. You don't have to keep printing it.
Yep.
Put a few fun things on there like get a drink of water.
Yep.
Easy to cross off and good for you.
2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah, I do. I mean, I do put like check messages, check phone messages. It's not difficult and I'm going to do it and it doesn't take that long, but it's nice to be able to check that off. Yeah. And I need to do it. It has to be done. Just like drink water, you have to drink water. So why not put it on your list and check it off?
Exactly. Gives you a chance to check something off.
Yeah.
So we have lists on our phones of hashtags that go together. Mm-hmm. So in our notes section on our phones, so we don't have to create a list of hashtags every time we post to Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just right there. Select all, copy. Go over to Instagram, paste it into the first comment.
Yeah.
So, again, automated. What else?
Then we can make sure that they're spelled correctly, too.
That's right. Gives you a chance to do that and to verify them.
Yep.
To look and make sure that there isn't some other industry using a hashtag that you think might be good for you.
Yeah. And then if you want to build up following on a hashtag, or you see that your shoppers or your customers are using a certain hashtag and you want to jump on that, you just have it in there. You don't have to think about it every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's helpful. What other kind of things do we automate? We have a Word doc with common responses to applications and to vendor questions, market setup questions, that kind of thing. So we don't have to write a new email every time we get somebody that says, I want to sell something.
Sauce.
Some multi-level
yeah.
thing.
Something that we're going to say no to. Yeah.
That. Or something that we're going to say yes to. There's still just a series of initial responses that we're always going to do about, do you have this permit? What's a good day for you to come bring us a sample? Are you aware of legal labeling requirements? Mm-hmm. Or sometimes it's, if you're just getting started in the farmer's market business, you might want to check out Vendor 1-101.
Yeah.
So there's some things that just automatically go back, especially in the early stage of applications. And so we've got those all in a document that we can just copy and paste instead of having to type out those 3 or 4 sentences over and over and over.
Very helpful.
Automate.
Yep. All right.
So the thing about getting things automated and getting things broken down into tiny little line items is that it's easier then to look closely at your list and find out what can be delegated to somebody else.
Precisely.
Right?
That's how we get to growth when we get to the letter G's. We get to growth. That's where this comes in. We're going to use this A letter for when we get to G. So stay tuned.
And as we're delegating things out, we'll eventually get to V for vacation.
Ooh.
Right?
My favorite letter of all.
So we call this delegate all but the genius. So there's some things you as the senior manager are going to have to do. You're going to have to handle those sticky conversations with vendors or farmers. And you may have to, since you're signing off on audits by the state, you may have to do that. But there's a lot of things that you can delegate out to somebody, especially if you're smart enough to realize that no matter how much easier it sounds to do it yourself and how much you don't want to take the time to train somebody else, you're never going to get out from under this, and you're never going to avoid burnout unless you're willing to train other people to pick up part of your job.
Yep.
So that's important. And by getting your tasks broken down into line items, it makes it a lot easier to determine who can take over part of those tasks. So maybe it's a staff member, maybe it's a volunteer. If it's posting on TikTok, maybe it's one of your kids, I don't know. But there are people out there that can take over some of your responsibilities.
Yeah.
So that leads us to the next A, and that's don't be afraid to
ask.
A is for ask. A lot of times that's what you got to do. How do you find out if there's somebody that can do something that you've been doing over and over? And the way to find that out is to ask. I think we're so quick to assume that we're the only ones that have time, or we're the only ones that have the ability.
Or no one can do it, no one wants to do it, or sometimes they would never learn it.
Right.
Yeah.
We get people that are really excited to do stuff we're tired of doing because it's not old hat to them. It's something new for them. And so they're excited to learn something new and take on a new area of responsibility. But you're not going to find that out unless you ask.
Exactly. Can I tell a personal story real quick about
Sure,
asking?
please.
The best parenting advice I've ever received in my life was from my friend's mom. Sorry, it wasn't my own mom. You gave me some good advice too. But my friend's mom, when I was pregnant with my first child and scared out of my wits, and she was like, honey, the best parenting advice you'll ever hear is that you just have to ask. She goes, just ask people for help. Just don't be ashamed. She goes, they might say no, you can't take it personally, but you'll never get help unless you ask for it. People might help you out here and there, but if you need something specific, we can't read your mind, just ask for it. And if they don't do as good a job as you, that's fine, as long as the job's getting done.
Right.
And so my husband and I just went out of town, and our friend flew over from Phoenix and stayed at our house and watched our younger boys. And all of my friends were just flabbergasted, like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky. Who would ever do that? And I was like, have you ever asked? Have you ever asked like a close friend if they would do that for you? Because my friend was ecstatic to fly over from Phoenix to San Diego. And she likes kids. She doesn't have her own kids, but she's great with them. I knew she was going to keep them alive. And she had a great time. I mean, we had to pay her some money. And they had a great time. They told us they didn't even miss us, which is another story. But I was telling my other mom friends, like, if you never ask somebody, you'll never know. Like, granted, some people don't have close friends that could do that. That's, of course, that happens. But, like, if you have some other friends or family members and you're like, oh, they would never do it, have you asked them? So same with in your business. Oh, this staffer could never do it. They could never learn how to do it. I don't want to train them how to do it. They wouldn't want to.
They're too busy already.
They're going to get mad if I ask. They're going to get, resentful of me if I ask them to take on this task. Well, have you asked them? Have you had a discussion with them about it? So I really feel like asking is a big part of growth for our G episode. Like, you have to ask, or else you're never going to get out from under this pile of tasks that's just pounding you away every day.
Right.
Yeah. So
asking that's one of the biggest A's.
Yep.
Ask.
And you have to also be ready for people to say, actually, no, I can't do that.
And that's okay.
And that's
because
okay.
You're already doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So if you ask and they say no, you're not any worse off.
It's not extra work for you if they say no.
Right.
It's the same amount of work.
Same amount of work.
And then you just go back to a different letter and find a different plan. P for plan.
And sometimes the person that you ask will say, you know what, that's so not me. Like, I'm not a social media person, but you know who you should ask is Jennifer.
Yeah.
Because she's like the youngest person on the staff. She speaks Instagram as a native language. It's not something she's got to learn.
Yeah, we know she'd be great at it.
She'd be good at it. I've seen her Instagram. It's really good. So sometimes the people you ask, even if they say no, will have a suggestion about somebody else that would be perfect to take over that task.
Exactly. Or just the action of asking someone, and even if they say no, they could also say, oh, I didn't realize you were trying to delegate some of your tasks. I see that you do this every week, and I feel like I could do that. Yeah. You could just train me how to do that. I'm really open to it, and I think I would love it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Things like that, yeah.
Yeah, you need to start that conversation. Let people know that you're not Superwoman. Yeah. I mean, we know you are, but even Superwoman gets tired.
That's right.
Yeah, and so you should just let them know that you could use some help with these things, and you'd be amazed how eager people are to help.
Yep.
They learn things. They grow.
They grow. Exactly. And then your staff becomes more invested in what you're doing because you're asking them to take on additional tasks. And I feel like it just makes things flow better because then they have a better understanding of things that are going on. And then you can do all those creative things, or you can do like bigger projects that you've really wanted to do for your business.
Yep.
You have a little bit of time frees up for those kind of things. So
yeah. You have time to go increase your sponsorship levels so that those staff members that are taking on new things can get paid more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Everybody wins.
Yep. That's good. Ask.
So, all free to change, but remember to ask. If we don't ask for help and assign tasks, we're in danger of burnout. Mm-hmm. Assign is kind of ask's buddy word.
That's right.
Ask and assign. They
Ask
go
and
together.
Assign. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So then now that you've got some help, you start that list and you start crossing things out, and all of a sudden you come to the bonus points A, which is accomplish.
Our favorite A of all.
You're accomplishing what you need to do.
Yep.
You add a line now. You've gotten so much accomplished, you can add a line to your list for a quick walk.
Yep.
Out in the sunshine.
Yep.
15 minutes to listen to your favorite podcast, or maybe 30, depending on if we're rambling or not, because we know it's us.
Just set aside 30 minutes.
That's right. Listen to a podcast. Mm-hmm. Give a pat on your back to yourself and your team that's helping you out to get things done. Yep. Farmers markets are really important. They increase farmers' financial sustainability. They build community. You're doing good work. You are accomplishing things. Yep. You're amazing. Oh, that's another A.
That's another A.
And now you'll have time and energy to tackle that list again tomorrow. There's so many A words.
Oh, man. We're going to make a book for each letter.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's it.
That's it. That's your 4 A's.
Most exciting ones. I do feel like with my list, I do feel so accomplished every week because I know what I'm doing. I know what I have to do. and then I check those boxes, and then it's done. And then I always do have some time during the day to work on other projects that I'm working on, or do those things that are quarterly or annual that you have to fit into your regularly scheduled day, which sometimes feels like you can never fit that in. But when it's permit time for us every year, I have to make room in my schedule. So as long as I have that list, I can knock out those things that have to be done every Tuesday. And then for the last 2 hours of Tuesday, I can work on the permits.
Right.
For a few weeks until it's on to the next project.
Yep. So you're accomplishing.
Accomplished. Feeling so accomplished. So make that space in your day with these 4 important A's.
That's right. Analyze, automate, ask, and accomplish.
Accomplish.
Because you're amazing.
I love this. All right. Well, that is our that's our episode for today. I don't know what they say at the end of Sesame Street, but I feel like
I feel like we should know that right now, right?
Yeah. 1, 2. All right, everyone. We'll see you next Monday on Tent Talk. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to this edition of Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And if you want more farmers market tips, tricks, and information, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at farmersmarketpros.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Thanks to Adam Samaha and Justine Marzoni Mead for being recording and editing wizards, and David Mead for your perfect original Tent Talk music. Thanks for listening.